Good morning, YouTube. This is Drizzle. I'm just getting my new Samsung 950 Pro M.2 interface NVMe drive, which is basically a solid-state drive, but about 5 times faster. At least the read rate is about 2,500 megabits per second. The write rate is about 1,500, so it's about 3 times faster on the write and 5 times faster on the read. See, you can see it's just a tiny little box, nothing real to it for the size, but very cool. I'm gonna go ahead and unbox this thing, and we're gonna get it installed here in a few minutes, and hopefully there's not a whole lot of trouble getting it to work. From what I understand, these things are, they're very new, and so certain boards don't recognize them real well, or like there's trouble getting them to be bootable, which is kind of weird. But I did talk to EVGA before I ordered this about my current board, the X99 Classified, and they said that it should support this with no problem, and that it should pretty much work out of the box. But if it didn't, then I could call them for help. So I will be hooking her up here in a minute, and we'll see what happens. One moment. Alright, so we've got the box opened up here, and you can see this is what the chip itself is like. It's just a pretty small little M.2 interface. This is the Generation 3 M.2 interface, so if you're wondering if your board supports something like this, you definitely are going to want to check with your manufacturer, read your manual. You probably might want to actually just call them and verify if they know, because most boards that aren't almost brand new cutting edge boards are not going to support this yet, unless maybe they do a BIOS update to bring it into support. But a lot of boards are not going to work with it yet. And anywho, I'm going to go ahead and get her installed here in a minute. See, there's box, there's a little manual that comes with it. I'm going to try to clone my OS from my existing 240 gig OS drive, which is like a Kingston solid state drive. And if I can get that to work, what I might do is try to pair up the Kingston with my two Samsungs that are already in RAID 0 and do like a three-way RAID stripe with those three drives for like a 750 gig. So that would have pretty good write rates as well. This will still be faster than them by itself, but 3 solid states in RAID would be pretty quick. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing into the machine, which is going to take a little bit because I got to take out one of my video cards to get access to the M.2 port, and my video cards are both liquid cooled with closed loop coolers, and so they can kind of be difficult to make space in there, but it shouldn't take but a few minutes to do that. And I'll continue the video once I have it installed. You can see we've got this down in here. It's kind of hard to get access because basically I had to kind of yank my card out of the way, but you can see it is physically installed now down there in the bottom. And so hopefully when we boot her up here, it's detected by the BIOS, and my cloning software hopefully will know what the hell it is, because if it doesn't, I may end up having to do a fresh OS install, and that's kind of a pain in the ass. I mean, technically you really should do a fresh OS install whenever you do a new OS drive. It just, well, usually, I mean, it just depends on chipsets and drivers and all this other silly shit, but it usually ends up better and faster out of the box. But I'm lazy and I don't want to do all that shit because I've got a lot of stuff in my OS, and it's on my OS drive, and it's a real pain in the neck to do all that. So I'm gonna hopefully get lucky and have this thing just work as intended. So without any further ado, I'm gonna put my card back in here and get this thing powered up, and hopefully everything goes to plan. I will continue the video here. As you can see, it is indeed picking up my N1 Samsung SSD 950 Pro. The way I had to get that to work was in this particular board there's two M.2 sockets. One is an older style for like earlier edition M.2 drives, and you can actually put like a mini wireless card into it if you want, and that one is still disabled because I'm not using it for anything. And then the second socket is the Gen 3 M.2 socket, which I have now enabled. I had to reboot, and once I rebooted, go in here and hit this particular setting, and you can see all my different drives. I've got my original Kingston OS drive. I've got that's a PNY 480 gig. I've got my Western Digital Caviar 3 terabyte hard drive in there. A SanDisk Ultra 2 is a 960 gig SSD. The Intel Volume 1 is my 250 gig Samsung 840 EVOs in RAID, so it just calls it a volume. And then I've got my my new 950 Pro. So I'm going to boot the machine up using. I've got my little handy dandy USB drive, since I don't really use an internal optical drive anymore. But you can see I've got that for just such an emergency, and I can go ahead and boot into my Acronis True Image software and see if I can't get this to clone my OS onto the new drive. You can see here real quick, I've got two of these lovely little liquid coolers on there now. They're both using Corsair H55s. You can see I mounted them up front, and I still got my GTX 100i on there for the CPU, which is running at a pretty nice temperature. The temps on the GPUs are really weird. It's like one card in there, they get really good temps, but with two cards, it's like they both idle in the mid to upper 30s, but under load they don't get much over 60. So it's like the low temp isn't great, but the high temp is really good, which is of course, you know, more important. So I'm pretty happy with that ultimately. I just kind of wish that they would idle lower. I actually did the front end. You can see there's a fan on the other side of the radiator pushing air out, and then I put a fan on the outside of the radiator to pull air as well. So it's kind of a push-pull, at least on the primary GPU, to keep it as cool as possible. And it seems to do a pretty good job. You can see, like I said, there's the fan on the one side, and then there's the fan on the other side of it. So anyhow, that's how that's going. It's going pretty well. Everything's been performing real good. I get like 25,000 points in 3D Mark with just the two cards, and 3 cards was only giving me like 27,000. So that's why I decided to not use 3 cards anymore. I'm trying to sell my third one to cover the cost of that NVMe drive I just grabbed, and debt free. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and try to clone that OS, and as long as everything works, I'll go ahead and do like a finalization video at that time. As you can see, it is in fact cloning my Kingston drive over to the NVMe Samsung 950 Pro. It was a little bit weird trying to get this to work. The Acronis software that I have that like you boot into and tell it to clone one disk to another couldn't even detect the M.2 drive, so that wasn't going to work. So I went on the Samsung website, and they had a driver specific for the NVMe drive, so I went ahead and installed that. And then I have an older copy of their cloning software that's supposed to work for basically migrating to one of their SSDs, and it like wasn't even installing, and I think it was because it was older and Windows 10 maybe wasn't compatible with that older version. But I went to their website and found the same cloning software and downloaded it, and lo and behold, it immediately knew my source disk and where I wanted to go, and so it's going, and hopefully it won't take too long, and then I'll try to boot up into it here as soon as it finishes. Hopefully there's no errors or anything weird, and we can see just how fast NVMe drives are. So I'll try that out here in a little bit. Okay, well, the read rates and write rates aren't quite what they're supposed to be. They're pretty good. As you can see, it's about a 1700 read instead of like the 2500 you're supposed to get. I talked to EVGA just a minute ago, and they said that this is kind of a known issue across like multiple motherboard manufacturers, that like they need a BIOS revision update, that most boards are not fully able to support the full speed that this drive can do yet. Don't get me wrong, it's stupid fast. Like, it's booting into Windows in a couple seconds, and I mean, just everything is real super snappy. I'm going to try to move maybe my Skyrim installation over to it and see how quick that loads when I get back here later. I got to run out and do a couple errands here. But anyways, as you can see, it did definitely install. It did definitely work. Wasn't too hard to physically install. Getting the OS to clone was not that bad. Like I said, you just got to go to their Samsung website and get their latest cloning software, and it will pretty much do the work for you. So not too bad. Pretty good little purchase. Hopefully this will really boost my load times on certain games. Like say Skyrim is a real pain in the neck for waiting for load screens. So anyways, thanks for watching. This has been Droozle. If you enjoy my content, please go ahead and either click like or subscribe to the channel, and I'll keep trying to put out these kind of videos, either with tech videos like this or more gaming footage. So thanks again, and have a great day. Bye.